Yeah, what's going on? I wanted to go ahead and discuss the situation that I guess it's been coming around for a while that I want to talk about was how I went from debt-free Ty to now going by cash flow Ty. And the only reason why I got the debt-free Ty name because I used to be a big Dave Ramsey follower. You know, strong. Like I've been listening to him since 2012, faithfully every single day from 2012 to 2019, I believe. I was listening to him heavy like that. 2019. That's when it was. So I listened to him strong like that those many years. And what happened was, I followed his program. I never had issues with debt. I always paid if I had debt before I had like a credit card, I always paid off every month. Back in the day, I never carried any debt. But I used to follow his program. I used to do everything he said to do. You know what I'm saying? To the T, because I just believed in him, and I just felt like what he said was king. Whatever he said was gold. You know what I mean? So if Dave Ramsey didn't do it, I didn't do it. That's kind of how it was, and that's kind of how a lot of his followers are. Which I ain't got nothing against none of y'all. I was that person once before too. But what happened was, I had to get to the point where I had to start thinking for myself, and start taking my own risks, living my own life, not living my life through Dave Ramsey. So what ended up happening was I started my trucking business. Saved up cash. I saved up $20,000. Start my trucking business. Took me about 4 months to save up that money. Me and my wife together. We save. We have our money. Always have had our money together. It's never been my money, her money. So me and her together saved up $20,000, and I took the $20,000, put it into a business account, and then turned around and went and bought a truck for like $12,700. So now I'm down to about $6,000. Once I got rolling, I had about $6,000 left to get going, to get started. And things, when I started out, this is me starting off with this with pulling loads for a company that I don't really know much about, but I was trying them out, and it was horrible. I mean, my first week with them, my first day that I can even remember, I did like one load that was like maybe a 50-60 mile round trip there and back. I went up there, might have been 30 miles and back 30 miles or something like that. So I'm calling to get more loads, because I'm used to doing about 5 or 6 loads a day when I was a company driver for Swift. I mean, I was, making $300 a day being a company driver. So I called the dispatcher like, oh, yeah, I'm ready for another load. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get moving. This is easy. They're like, oh, that's all we have for today. Slink back up tomorrow. So I'm like, oh snap, what I done got myself into? You know what I mean? Because now I'm like, I can't do this, because I probably done made $125 for the day, but I probably done spent $250 in fuel. So I'm in a negative now. You know what I mean? Because this is on me now. It's not for the company. So this is kind of like so now I'm like kind of tripping out. So I gave the company like a week, and man, my first check for that company week, I think I might have grossed like $900, brought home like $600-700, which is horrible. I hadn't made that type of money since when I first started driving, which was back in 2010 or something. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. So now I'm tripping. I'm by myself. I'm on my own, and I'm making this type of money. So I'm like, oh, what I done did. So now I'm kind of like stressed out a little bit, like kind of like, man, I done made a mistake. I should have stayed being a company driver. But anyway, things started to pick up a little bit, but it still sucked this company. I knew I wasn't gonna be there long. But anyway, the truck I had, like any other thing, it had an issue. So yeah, imagine I'm still doing this Dave Ramsey stuff, which means that everything I do have to be by cash. So trucks, I'm trying, and I'm not making no money with this company I'm with. So my account can't. I'm really living off this $6,000 that I don't had cushion when I started with the 20,000. So I have an issue with the truck. It's blowing out blue smoke, and it's like losing power. So I'm not knowing what's going on. I take it to one shop. They take forever to look at the truck, and they charge me $200 to check it out. So I lose $200 there. Take it to another shop, and they like, oh yeah, we figured out what the problem is. Somebody recommended this shop to me. They're like, you need all new injectors, and you need a turbo. So I'm like, oh okay. So as long as it fixes the problem, cool. So injectors end up costing me about $200 an injector, and there's 6 of them, so that's $1,200. And then the turbo ended up costing me like $800-900 plus the installation. I think altogether it cost this whole situation that I had to pay for parts and the labor to the mechanic was like $3,500. So I think my bread is less than half now that I have. Now I'm like 3,000 something for 2,500 something, 2,700 or something like that when you add up everything. So now I'm like, oh snap, man, if one more thing happened, I'm out of business before I even get started. So I go pick up the truck from the shop. It's doing the exact same thing. I don't pay these people their money, doing the exact same thing. Like, yo, truck still blowing out blue smoke, it's still losing power. So the shop, they don't really speak English that well, so they kind of like, oh, I don't know. They got a translator there. She they like trying to figure it out. So they like, well, let's try to figure it out. We'll give you a call back. So I go home, man. I'm really stressed because I'm thinking, I done spent this money. I don't have that much money left. I can't go, like, I could go to the bank and borrow some money. I got great credit, whatever, but on the Dave Ramsey stuff, I can't do that. So I'm like, man, I'm about to be out of business. I'm about to be right back. Hopefully I get my job back at Swift, at the company, starting over again, I guess. I'm just thinking about all kind of stuff. So I called one of my friends that I like talked to heavy at the time, and he said, man, he was like, he always thought outside the box. He's like, why don't you try calling the guy that had the truck before you? Because I bought the truck from a lot, but they had the persons who owned the truck before that information. So I was like, cool, let me give them a call. I called this guy. He's like, well, have you tried checking the fuel filter? And the crazy thing is, I had just got a B service oil change, but the person who did my oil change didn't have any filter, so he did everything but the filter. He was supposed to came back to do the filter, but he never did. So I was like, and I didn't think it was a big deal. I'm a new driver, not knowing no better. So I called the shop. I'm like, hey, can y'all try changing that filter out? They changed the filter out. Call him back. Oh yeah, perfect. Everything's great. I go pick up the truck. Truck was perfect. I never had the issue again. You mean to tell me this whole time this is a $4 filter issue that I don't spend like almost $4,000 to get right, and only this is one of those situations. I was just happy to get the truck back rolling, no issue. I didn't even trip. So I get back rolling again, and I kind of get to the point where I know I'm still gonna leave this company, but I had another issue with I was pulling this heavy load, maybe like a month and a half later, and I was pulling this heavy load going up this hill, and I missed my gear because I didn't have my engine brake on. So I missed the gear, had the engine brake on. I tried to switch the gear with the engine brake on. I cracked my rear. I cracked the thing that the rear end's in. So I cracked that up. I cracked the rear end. I don't know what you call it, shell or whatever. I cracked it in half, so it's broken. Can't move the truck. Like, dang. I'm right here getting ready to deliver at the place too. So that was a situation. I had to get the truck. Someone came and picked the trailer up, so I didn't have to get the trailer towed, but I had to get the truck towed. That was like $500. Truck towed like 5 miles. I took it to that same shop where those guys that missed my they gave me the diagnosis of the turbo. But I took it there. I'm thinking maybe they may look out for me since they missed other jobs. So for the rear end situation, they fixed the rear end for me. The rear end itself ended up costing me like I think $2,200, but they only charged me like $200 in labor. You know what I'm saying? I guess they was making up for what they just did, because $200 to put on the rear end seems a little cheap. Because maybe that's fair price. I don't know, but it's all it cost me $200. So I'm back rolling. As soon as I get back rolling, I go straight to this other spot that I had heard about called Horizon, and I just go start pulling for them. And 1 week, man, I start pulling for them, and in 1 week I probably made more money in 1 week than I did. I think like that first time, I think my first week with Horizon, I probably worked like 4 days, and I think I brought home like $1,700. And I was just happy to start seeing that type of money, because I had to start seeing it, but I was making some money. Eventually just start making some money, you know what I'm saying? That place is a whole nother story, but that's the point I was trying to make. So fast forward to now, where it gets to the point where the whole point, I guess, the story is how I get to the point where I kind of stopped listening to Dave Ramsey and I started doing things on my own. Was me and my friend Ryan had linked back up. We started talking about buying like property. Like, we want to buy like some property together, and he was telling me, he was like, yeah, man, I'm getting ready to get a line of a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit on one of his properties. And he's like, you should do the same, because he knew I had like a lot of equity in my house. And I was like, nah, man, I'm Dave Ramsey all the way through. We don't do that type of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? He was like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking, I kind of felt bad, because like we all got this little plan together, so to like get our money up so we can start buying property. But I was gonna be, I'm thinking I could just save the money up in like 6 months. And he like, we're ready to go now. And I'm like, they ain't saying this, but that's kind of how it's making me feel. Even though, so I wasn't listening to what he was saying. I was listening, but I wasn't listening. I went home and started doing research on HELOCs. And I started learning. I was like, well, dang, this seems kind of cool. I mean, it seems like it kind of works. It's kind of risky, but kind of works. So I just go to the bank just to see what happens. So I go to the bank. This credit union I went to, and I say, yeah, I want to see about getting a HELOC. And the guy runs all my stuff, whatever like that. And then like, I think like the next day, it probably like 2 days. Like all the stuff goes through, everything's cool. 2 days later, he's like, hey, come out here and sign these papers, man. I got you set up. I'm thinking, like, you know, he's like, yeah, we did a drive-by and appraisal and all that. So he's like, you know, set up. He was like, because he remember before I was telling about Ryan. I was like, maybe if I get it, I'm probably try to get like maybe like 25,000 on a line. He was like, nah, get as much as you can get. You know, I mean, you don't have to use the money. You don't want to try to get 25, and that's all you can get later on if you need more. So I'm like, thinking, man, I really don't want to get no, you know. So these folks, they was trying to give me like 90 grand. They gave me like 90 grand. They gave me a $90,000 line. So now I got $90,000 to like I have access to. Now I don't owe nobody 90,000, but I have access to 90,000. That's the keyword, access to 90,000. But in order to get the 90,000, they make you take 10 of it. They can take 10 of it, you know what I'm saying? So you can take the 10 and put it right back. But in my mind, I was like, well, shoot, if I gotta take 10,000, I might well use it for something.